Commander stood before the Galactic Council chamber, his scaled hands gripping the data tablet so hard it nearly cracked. The holographic display behind him showed system after system painted in red. Lost worlds, dead colonies, 3 generations of war, and they were no closer to victory than when it started. "The Dominion has taken the Outer Rim systems," reported, his voice flat with exhaustion. "Our forces are stretched thin. We need new strategies or we need to surrender." The word surrender made the council members shift uncomfortably in their seats. The Empire had never surrendered, not in 1,000 years of recorded history, but pride did not feed starving colonies or bring back the dead. Sat in the back of the chamber, her eyes scanning through ancient data files on her personal device. As the chief intelligence officer, she spent most of her time looking for patterns, for anything that might give them an advantage. While the generals argued about troop movements and weapon systems, searched the past. "We could recall the Fourth Fleet from the southern sectors," one admiral suggested. "And leave our mining colonies undefended," another council member snapped back. "That would take them in days." Closed his eyes briefly. He had heard these same arguments 100 times. They were going in circles, like a dying ship spinning in the void. He was about to call for a recess when stood up. "There might be another option," she said quietly. The chamber fell silent, rarely spoke during strategy meetings. When she did, people listened. "I have been researching the first expansion wars," continued, walking toward the center of the room. 800 years ago, during the great conflicts, there are records of another species. They were called humans, from a world called Earth. Elder, the oldest member of the council, made a dismissive gesture with her hand. "The human myths, really. We are discussing real strategy, not children's stories." "I know how it sounds," said, projecting her files onto the main display. "But look at these battle reports. Look at the descriptions. The humans fought in ways no one expected. They used tactics that seemed insane but somehow worked. They turned farming equipment into weapons. They refused to surrender even when defeat was certain, and according to these records, they often won." Studied the ancient files with interest. He had heard the stories as a young officer. Most soldiers knew the legends. The humans who could fight for days without rest. The humans who turned every loss into a learning opportunity. The humans who scared even the most powerful empires. But they were just stories, weren't they? "Even if humans existed," another council member said, "they disappeared centuries ago. Some say they destroyed themselves in their own wars. Others say they were wiped out by disease. Either way, they are gone." "Or they went into isolation," countered. "The last confirmed sighting was 600 years ago, in the far edge of the explored galaxy. What if they are still out there?" Laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You want us to go searching for a mythical species while they burn our worlds. This is madness." Held up his hand for silence. What exactly did these humans do that made them so feared? Pulled up specific reports. They adapted faster than anyone. In one battle, they lost half their fleet. By the next battle, they had completely changed their tactics based on what they learned. They never fought the same way twice. They also never abandoned their people. Even when retreating, they would risk everything to save civilians or wounded soldiers. "That sounds like foolish sentiment," one general muttered. "Perhaps," said, "but it also meant their enemies could never predict them. Fear is a powerful weapon. The old records show that some empires would avoid human territories entirely, even when it meant taking longer routes." Looked at the star charts on the main display. They were winning through superior numbers and better technology. They were losing because they could not adapt fast enough. They needed something new, something unexpected. "Where was this Earth located?" asked. Zoomed out the star map, pointing to a sector marked as unexplored space. "Here, the Sol system. It has been marked as restricted space for hundreds of years. No one knows why. Ships that go there do not come back, or they return with all their records corrupted." Sounds like an automated defense system, the general said. Or a warning, replied. Stood up, her old bones creaking. Enough of this fantasy. We have a real war to fight. Commander, prepare the defenses for the core worlds. We will make the pay for every meter they advance. There are no humans coming to save us. We save ourselves or we die trying. The council members began filing out of the chamber, stayed behind, studying the star charts, approached him quietly. You think I am wasting time, she said. I think you are looking for hope in old stories, replied. But I also think desperate times call for desperate measures. Keep researching. If there is even a small chance that humans exist, we need to know. Nodded and left the chamber. Remained, staring at the small marker on the map that indicated the Sol system. Somewhere out in the darkness of space, perhaps something was watching them. Perhaps something was waiting. Or perhaps they were truly alone, fighting a war they could not win against an enemy that would not stop. But had learned one thing in his years of command. Hope, even foolish hope, was better than no hope at all. The next day, they attacked 3 more systems. The border patrol was supposed to be routine. Commander had positioned his small fleet between space and the contested zone, watching for scouts. 3 weeks of empty space and silence. Then the sensors went crazy. Unknown vessel approaching, the sensor officer called out. It does not match any known design in our database. Moved to the command screen. The ship was small, barely larger than a civilian transport, but its energy signature was strange, pulsing in patterns he had never seen before. Weapon status, asked. The ship appears unarmed, sir, or at least we cannot detect any weapons. That made more nervous, not less. In his experience, the most dangerous ships were the ones that hid their weapons well. Open a hailing channel, he ordered. The communication officer worked the controls, then frowned. Sir, the ship is responding, but it is transmitting in hundreds of different languages simultaneously. Our systems are trying to sort through it. The main flickered. A face appeared. It was strange, with smooth skin, small features, and hair that fell in dark waves. The being's eyes were bright and alert, studying with obvious intelligence. This is Captain Sora of the Terran Expeditionary Force, the being said in clear galactic common, though with an accent had never heard. We come in peace and request permission to speak. Felt his heart skip a beat. Terran, Earth, human. He called to his intelligence officer. Did she just say Terran? Was already pulling up her files, her hands shaking slightly. Yes, sir. Terran means from Terra, another name for Earth. Commander, I think we just found them. The human captain on the screen tilted her head slightly as if amused. I take it you have heard of us then. Good. That saves time. We have been watching your war with interest. It seems wasteful, unnecessary. We would like to offer mediation services. Mediation, repeated. You have been gone for hundreds of years and you return to offer mediation. We have been busy, Sora replied with a slight smile. Rebuilding our civilization after nearly destroying it. Learning from our mistakes. Now we are ready to rejoin the galactic community. But we return to find you all trying to kill each other over resources that could be shared. It is disappointing. One of his officers leaned close. Sir, should we inform the council? Before could answer, another alarm sounded. A warship had entered the system, clearly tracking the same unknown vessel. This is Warlord of the Dominion, a harsh voice announced over open channels. Unknown vessel, you are in territory. Surrender your ship immediately. Sora sighed, a very human gesture of frustration. And here we go. Captain, I recommend your ships move back 3,000 meters. This might get interesting. You know my name, asked. We have been monitoring your communications for 3 weeks, another voice said. A second human appeared on screen next to Sora. She was shorter with sharp features. I am Bora, second in command. We wanted to understand the situation before revealing ourselves. The warship was powering weapons, made a quick decision. All ships reverse thrust, move back as the human suggested. "Sir, we cannot abandon a potential ally," one officer protested. "The potential ally just scanned our entire fleet through our shields without us detecting it," said quietly, showing her sensor readings. "I want to see what else they can do." The warship fired. Plasma bolts that could tear through heavy armor streaked toward the small human ship. The bolts hit nothing. The human ship simply was not where it had been a moment before. It had moved faster than sensors could track. "Interesting weapons," Sora's voice came through the channel, calm and unbothered. "Effective against stationary targets, less so against moving ones." The fired again, and again. Each time the human ship dodged with casual ease. Then it stopped moving entirely and just sat in space. "Shields up," Bora said. The plasma bolts hit the human ship dead center. They splashed against an invisible barrier and dispersed harmlessly. Warlord's voice came through, angry now. "What kind of technology is this?" "Old technology," Sora replied. "You have all the pieces. You just never thought to combine them this way. Now, are we done with the aggressive posturing, or do I need to demonstrate our offensive capabilities?" The warship fired every weapon it had. The barrage that struck the human ship would have destroyed a battle cruiser. When the energy dissipated, the human ship sat there, completely undamaged. "Very well," Sora said. She sounded almost bored. "Bara, if you would." "With pleasure, Captain." The human ship fired something. Not a beam, not a projectile. The warship just stopped. All of its systems shut down simultaneously. Weapons offline, engines offline, even life support reduced to minimal. "Your crew is safe," Sora assured. "They have emergency power for 48 hours. I recommend you pick them up, Warlord, and I recommend both of you agree to meet with us, because we really do not want to take sides in your family squabble, but we also do not tolerate bullies." Stared at his sensor displays in disbelief. A ship 1/10 the size of a warship had just disabled it without destroying it. The precision required was beyond anything he thought possible. "Commander," Sora said, her attention back on him. "I know you have questions. I know your leaders will want answers. We are willing to meet on neutral ground. The station called Haven's Rest is acceptable to us. Bring whoever you need. We will answer what we can." Endo asked. "They are invited too. As I said, we do not take sides, but everyone needs to understand something." Sora's expression became serious. "The legends you heard about humanity, they were not exaggerations. They were warnings. We fought wars that nearly ended our species. We learned terrible lessons, and we will not let others repeat our mistakes if we can help it." The communication ended. The human ship turned and began moving toward the Haven's Rest station at a leisurely pace. Was typing frantically on her console. "Commander, the energy readings from that weapon. I have never seen anything like it. It shut down their systems without damaging them. That kind of control, that kind of precision." "I know," interrupted. "Send a priority message to the Council. Tell them the legends are real. The humans have returned, and they are everything the story said they were." He looked at the disabled warship, already seeing rescue ships approaching from deeper in space. "Maybe more," he added quietly. Haven's Rest Station was neutral territory, maintained by traders who wanted nothing to do with the war. The meeting room was simple, with a round table and chairs designed for multiple species. Commander sat on one side with and 3 other officers. Across from them, Warlord had brought his own delegation, all of them armed and looking hostile. Between them sat 3 humans. Captain Sora looked relaxed, almost bored. Beside her, Bora was reviewing something on a small device. The third human, who introduced himself as Jin, appeared to be their diplomatic specialist. He wore simple clothing and had a patient smile that never quite reached his eyes. "Let us begin," Jin said pleasantly. "We appreciate both sides agreeing to meet. We believe this conflict can be resolved through negotiation. Warlord slammed his fist on the table. The only thing we want from you is your technology. Share it with us, and we will offer you protection, refuse, and you will be treated as enemies of the Dominion. Sora raised one eyebrow. Protection, that is amusing. Eumachus growled. I am simply nodding the irony, Sora replied calmly. You threatened us, fired on us, and now offer protection. It is like a burglar offering home security services. Almost smiled but kept his expression neutral. Was recording everything, her eyes darting between the humans and her data pad. Jin held up his hands in a peaceful gesture. Let me explain our position clearly. Humanity spent 300 years at war with itself. We developed weapons that could crack planets. We built machines that could think faster than biological minds. We created viruses that could wipe out entire worlds, and we nearly used all of it to destroy ourselves. The room fell silent. We survived by luck and by learning one critical lesson, Jin continued. Technology without wisdom is just a faster way to die. We cannot share our technology with civilizations that will use it to kill each other. It would be irresponsible. Then why come here at all? Asked. Because we also learned that isolation is a slow death, Sora answered. We need trading partners, allies, friends, but we need them to be stable, to not be killing each other, so we offer mediation, not weapons. Stood up, unacceptable. You will share your technology or we will take it. In a blur of motion, his personal guards moved to grab Sora. They were fast, trained warriors who could kill in seconds. They did not even get close. A fourth human who had been standing silently by the door moved. His name was the security detail. Barely saw what happened. One moment the guards were attacking. The next moment they were on the floor, disarmed and restrained. Stood over them, not even breathing hard. Please remain seated, said politely. Looked shocked, then furious. His hand moved toward his own weapon. I would not recommend that, Sora said, her voice cold now. Is trained in 17 different combat forms. He can kill you in 37 different ways using just this room's furniture. But he will not, because we do not kill during peace negotiations. We prefer to just embarrass people who make poor decisions. Had to admire the tactic. The humans had made their point without firing a shot. Jin sighed deeply. Warlord, this is not how adults negotiate. Perhaps we need to clarify the situation. Captain Sora, would you mind arranging a demonstration? I thought you would never ask, Sora said with a smile. She activated a holographic projector, showing the system they were in. I am transmitting coordinates to both of your fleets, a dead moon far from any colonies. I request that you send your best observers, military analysts, scientists, whoever you trust to report honestly. They will watch what we can do. And then asked, and then you can make informed decisions about whether threatening us is wise, Sora replied. 6 hours later, stood in an observation shuttle with a dozen other officers. Nearby, an observation ship held their analysts. On the dead moon below, the humans had set up a demonstration range. First test, Sora's voice came through the communications. Combat maneuvers. A single human shuttle launched from their ship. It was tiny, barely armed. Then 12 automated drones appeared, each one carrying weapons equal to a full fighter craft. The human shuttle dodged, spun, rolled, and twisted through space. The drones fired constantly, but they could not hit their target. Then the human shuttle began firing back. One by one, the drones were disabled with precise shots that destroyed their weapons but left them intact. Impossible, one officer whispered. That pilot is pulling forces that would kill any organic being. Look at the shuttle's internal display, said, showing her data pad. The pilot is conscious and in control. The humans must have developed technology to compensate for the forces. Or they have just adapted to withstand more than we can. another officer suggested. The second test showed engineering capability. The humans were given a broken freighter, damaged beyond repair by normal standards. 3 humans in spacesuits began working on it. They are using scrap metal from the moon's surface, noted. And are they using mining equipment as replacement parts? In 6 hours, the humans had the freighter flying again. It was crude, held together with improvised welds and parts that had no business working together. But it worked. They turned garbage into a spaceship, said quietly. The third test was the most unsettling. The humans were given a tactical simulation, one that the military used for training. It was designed to be impossible to complete. The goal was to teach officers how to make difficult decisions when no good options existed. 5 human soldiers entered the simulation. The officers watched as they approached the impossible scenario. Then the humans simply ignored the rules of the simulation. They used equipment in ways it was not designed for. They created tactics that should not have worked. They succeeded by refusing to accept that success was impossible. The simulation is designed to teach you to accept defeat gracefully, one tactical officer said, stunned. They just decided not to be defeated. A human marine, a man named Wu, appeared on the communication channel. The simulation was interesting, but respectfully, it was designed by people who believe some things cannot be done. Humans stopped believing in impossible a long time ago. We just figure out how. The observation ships returned to Haven's Rest in silence, could see the doubt on every face. The observers looked disturbed. The officers looked thoughtful. When they returned to the meeting room, the atmosphere had changed. The legends said softly to Sora. They said humans were terrifying in combat, that you never surrendered, that you turned everything into a weapon. Those were understatements, were they not? Sora nodded. We did not share our worst weapons. We did not show you our warships. We did not demonstrate what desperation made us create. What you saw today was humans being careful and polite. The legends are about humans when we are not careful, when we are not polite, when we are fighting for survival. She looked at both and, so here is our offer. End this war, negotiate peace. We will help mediate, provide resources, share some technology once trust is established, or continue fighting and eventually you will drag us into it. And if that happens, you will learn firsthand why the old empires feared us. Believed her. The negotiations were progressing slowly but steadily. Had started to believe peace might actually be possible. Then everything went wrong. Warlord had left Haven's Rest 3 days earlier, claiming he needed to consult with the High Command. It was a lie. While the humans and discussed peace terms had been positioning his entire fleet for a massive surprise attack. The assault began at dawn on 7 core worlds simultaneously. Civilian targets, population centers, not military bases, had decided that if he could not have human technology, he would win the war before the humans could interfere. Burst into the operations center where was working with Captain Sora and Jin. Her face was pale with shock. Commander, we are under attack. Multiple systems. The casualty reports are already in the millions. Felt his blood turn cold. He pulled up the tactical displays, red markers everywhere. His home colony was under bombardment, schools, hospitals, residential areas. This is a violation of every war convention, said, his voice shaking with rage. He is targeting civilians on purpose. Sora's expression darkened as she reviewed the data was showing. Jin looked disturbed, his usual calm demeanor cracking. This changes things, Jin said quietly. No, Sora replied firmly. This is exactly what we wanted to avoid. We cannot get involved in internal conflicts. Internal turned to face her. Look at these reports. Children, families, he is burning our worlds, and you will do nothing. We said we would not take sides, Jin said, but even he sounded uncertain now. Sora was reading the casualty figures on her data pad. Her jaw was tight. Bora entered the room, saw the displays, and cursed in a language did not recognize. The communication system activated. A new voice, deeper and carrying absolute authority. This is Captain of the Terran battlecruiser Indomitable. I have been monitoring this situation. Jin, Sora, I am overruling your non-intervention order. Jin looked surprised. Captain, sir, the protocol clearly states. The protocol also states that we do not tolerate bullies or war crimes, interrupted. I am looking at civilian casualty reports, schools destroyed, medical facilities targeted. This is not a war. This is murder. The Terran Expeditionary Force is intervening. Sora closed her eyes briefly, then nodded. Understood, Captain. What are your orders? Protect the civilians, stop the attacks, and remind Warlord why humans are feared. The Indomitable dropped out of faster-than-light travel directly above the most heavily attacked world. It was massive, 3 times the size of any warship in either the or fleets, but size was not what made it terrifying. It was what it did next. The Indomitable broadcast a message on all frequencies in every known language. The message was simple. Attention forces, you are attacking civilians. This is a war crime. Cease immediately or face consequences. The ships ignored the warning and continued their bombardment. What happened next would be studied by military academies for generations. The Indomitable did not fire its main weapons. Instead, it deployed smaller craft, dozens of them. Each one moved to intercept bombers before they could reach their targets. The human ships did not destroy the vessels. They disabled them with the same precision Sora had demonstrated earlier. Weapons offline, engines offline, crews unharmed but helpless. On the ground, human dropships landed near civilian evacuation zones. Soldiers in powered armor began organizing rescues, pulling people from collapsed buildings, creating safe zones around hospitals and schools. Watched the tactical displays in amazement. The humans were fighting on 7 different worlds simultaneously with perfect coordination. They communicated constantly, adapted to each situation, and never seemed to panic. A cruiser fired on a human rescue ship that was evacuating wounded civilians. The Indomitable responded instantly. A beam of concentrated energy struck the cruiser's weapon systems, destroying them completely while leaving the rest of the ship intact. Warning shot, Captain's voice announced calmly. Next one will be through your bridge. The human forces used psychological warfare too. They broadcast messages showing soldiers surrendering peacefully and being treated well. They showed prisoners receiving medical care. They showed rescued civilians thanking human soldiers. One of the humans, a tactical officer named, predicted every move before they made it. She studied their patterns, their communication protocols, their command structure. When a fleet tried to flank the human position, had already positioned countermeasures. They are not just good at fighting, observed. They are good at understanding their opponents. The tide turned within 18 hours. The offensive stalled completely. Threw more ships into the battle, but it did not matter. The humans had taken control of the engagement. Then came the moment that defined the conflict. A human hospital ship was caught between 2 warships. It was unarmed, clearly marked with medical symbols, and full of wounded civilians and captured soldiers. The ships prepared to fire, apparently willing to kill their own people to hurt the humans. The human response was immediate. 3 human warships positioned themselves between the hospital ship and the vessels. They did not fire. They simply sat there, shields at maximum, protecting everyone on that medical ship. The human shields held. One ship took so much damage that its hull began to crack, but it did not move. More human ships arrived to reinforce the position. They are taking fire to protect wounded enemies, said in disbelief. That is what humans do, Sora replied simply. We do not abandon people, Not our own, not our allies, not even our enemies when they are wounded. That is the lesson we learned from our wars. Every life matters. The battle for Warlord's flagship was almost anticlimactic. The Indomitable disabled the ship's engines with surgical precision, then Captain himself led the boarding party. They found on his bridge, still shouting orders that no one could follow. Warlord said calmly, his powered armor making him look like a metal giant. You are under arrest for war crimes against civilian populations. You will be given a fair trial, legal representation, and if convicted, a punishment appropriate to your crimes. You should just kill me, spat. No, replied, because we are not you, that is the difference. Looked confused, then angry, then finally afraid. He had expected execution. He had expected revenge. He had not expected justice. The war did not end immediately, but the momentum had shifted. Officers began surrendering rather than continuing to follow orders. Forces, supported by human ships, regained their lost territory. In the operations center, stood next to Sora, watching the tactical displays change from red to blue to green. Thank you, he said quietly. We did what was necessary, Sora replied. But Commander, understand this. We showed restraint today. We could have destroyed every ship in hours. We chose not to. We chose to disable, to capture, to protect. Because that is who we have decided to be. But make no mistake. If someone had destroyed that hospital ship, if they had killed those wounded, human and alike, you would have seen what happens when humans are not being careful. I believe you, said. Good, now let us finish this war properly. Through negotiation, not annihilation. That is the only victory worth having. 3 months after the war ended, Commander stood in the Galactic Council chambers once again. But this time, the atmosphere was completely different. The walls were being repaired from battle damage. The council seats were filled with new faces, younger leaders who had replaced the old guard that failed to prevent the war. And there were humans in the chamber, not as visitors but as observers and advisors. Captain Sora sat beside Jin at a special table marked for mediators. They had spent the past 3 months helping negotiate the peace treaty. It had been difficult work. Trust did not rebuild quickly after generations of conflict. The treaty is ready for final approval, Jin announced to the assembled council members. He projected the document onto the main display. Both the Empire and the Dominion have agreed to the following terms. Read through the terms again, though he had them memorized by now. Immediate ceasefire, prisoner exchanges, establishment of joint humanitarian zones, war crime tribunals for those who had targeted civilians, and most importantly, trade agreements that would make cooperation more profitable than conflict. The humans had not demanded territory. They had not asked for tribute or payment. They had not even insisted on exclusive trade rights. Instead, they had required both empires to establish systems that would prevent future wars. This is acceptable to the Empire, said formally. He had been promoted to Grand Commander, the highest military position. His first act had been to restructure the military around defense and peacekeeping rather than conquest. The representative, a new leader named Korra who had replaced, nodded slowly. The Dominion agrees to these terms. We ask only that the humans honor their promise to provide technical assistance with rebuilding our damaged worlds. We will honor all our promises, Sora confirmed. Human engineers are already preparing to deploy. We will help rebuild what was destroyed on both sides. Elder, who had survived the war but lost much of her influence, stood up slowly. She looked at Sora with an expression that mixed shame and curiosity. Captain Sora, may I ask a question? Of course, Elder. Why did you help us? Your demonstration showed you could have conquered both our empires easily. You could have taken what you wanted. What do humans actually gain from this peace? Sora smiled slightly. That is a fair question. Let me answer it honestly. She stood and walked to the center of the chamber. her movements confident but not aggressive. 400 years ago, humanity was divided into hundreds of nations. We fought wars over resources, over ideology, over pride. We developed weapons that could end all life on our planet, and we nearly used them. Twice, we came within minutes of destroying everything. The chamber was silent, everyone listening. We survived by luck and by some very brave people who refused to follow orders to fire those weapons. When we finally achieved peace on Earth, we asked ourselves the same question you are asking now. What did we gain? Sora looked around the chamber, making eye contact with multiple council members. We gained a future. We gained neighbors instead of enemies. We gained trading partners instead of targets. We gained friends instead of threats. And most importantly, we gained a purpose beyond just surviving. We decided that if we had learned these terrible lessons, we had a responsibility to share that knowledge, not through conquest but through cooperation. She returned to her seat. So what do humans gain from your peace? We gain neighbors who might actually survive. We gain trading partners who can offer goods and services we need. We gain allies who might stand with us if we ever face a threat we cannot handle alone. And we gain the satisfaction of knowing we help prevent others from making our mistakes. Jin added, also, peace is profitable. War destroys value. Peace creates it. Even from a purely economic standpoint, having two stable empires as neighbors is better than having a war zone on our borders. Now the chief intelligence director for the entire empire raised her hand. Captain Sora, may I share something with the council? Please do. Activated her data pad, projecting her own research onto the display. I have spent 3 months studying human history through the information they have shared with us. I want you all to see something. The display showed Earth from space, beautiful blue and green, full of life. This is Earth today. Now look at these images from their historical archives. The next images showed Earth during the human wars, burned cities, poisoned lands, oceans choked with pollution, and then images of weapons that could crack continents. They nearly destroyed their own home, continued. But they chose not to. They pulled back from the edge. They rebuilt. They learned. And now they are here helping us avoid the same fate. That is not weakness. That is wisdom. She turned to face the council. I recommend we accept the treaty and establish permanent diplomatic relations with humanity. We have much to learn from them. The vote was unanimous. Both empires accepted the peace treaty. After the formal ceremonies ended, found Sora on an observation deck overlooking the council station's docking bays. Human ships were preparing to depart, their mission complete. Will you stay? Asked. Your people, I mean, or will you return to isolation? Some of us will stay, Sora replied. Teachers, engineers, peacekeepers, people who want to help. The Indomitable and the main fleet will return to human space, but we will maintain a presence here. We are part of the galaxy again. We do not plan to leave. She looked at directly. But Commander, you need to understand something. We cannot solve all your problems. We cannot make your civilizations work. That is up to you. We can advise, we can help, but the hard work of maintaining peace is yours to do. I know, said, but it helps to know we are not alone. That someone has walked this path before and survived. A human shuttle pilot, a young woman named, walked past carrying equipment. She nodded politely to both of them. Behind her came Sung, the human historian who had been helping update the council archives with accurate records of both the war and human history. Your people seem young, observed. Not in years, but in attitude. You act like you have everything still to prove. Because we do, Sora said with a laugh. We almost destroyed ourselves. We are still making up for that mistake. Every day we try to be better than we were. Every day we try to prove that our survival was deserved. She turned back to the window. The legends about humanity made us sound terrifying. And yes, we can be. We know how to fight. We know how to win. But that is not what we want to be remembered for. We want to be remembered as the species that learned, that changed, that chose peace even when war was easier. I think you will be, said. Far below them in the Council archives was making the final update to humanity's entry in the galactic database. Where it once had said status, unknown, possibly extinct or mythological, it now read something different. Humanity, real and present. Origins, Earth Sol system, known for adaptive combat tactics, innovative engineering, and refusal to abandon people in need. Diplomatic status, allied. Warning, do not threaten their allies or target civilians. They will respond with overwhelming force but measured restraint. Note, previously thought to be legend. Legends proven accurate but incomplete. Approach with respect. And then added one more line, something not from the official records but from her own experience. Humanity is a promise that survival is possible, that civilizations can learn from their mistakes, that there is always a choice between destruction and cooperation. They chose cooperation. So can we. Somewhere in deep space, a new alien species picked up transmissions of the recent conflict. They listened to the battle reports, the peace negotiations, the human broadcasts. In their council chambers, their leaders discussed in hushed tones. Did you hear? The humans are real. The legends were true. All of them, and now they are active again. Should we be afraid? A pause, then a thoughtful reply. No, if the reports are accurate, we should be hopeful. If the humans survived their own destructiveness and learned from it, perhaps we can too. Perhaps we all can. The transmission ended. The galaxy continued turning. Wars would still happen. Conflicts would still arise. But now there was something new in the darkness between stars. There was hope. And there were humans, no longer just legends, but real, flawed, determined people who had learned the hard way that peace was worth fighting for. And sometimes that was enough.